how can I buy this, let's say, corner lot and add an ADU to it, maybe 2, maybe 3, depending on, the zoning. And now you're adding more doors, which will then increase your cash flow and then help you offset other expenses. But that's the only way that people are able to tap into Southern California, which is why I think it's the greatest play. I call it the ADU play.
Hey, this is the BetterLife Podcast with Brandon Turner and Cam Cathcart. This is a special Friday episode we call CashFlow Fridays, where we interview people on one specific investment strategy that produces phenomenal cash flow in this market. This show is meant to be short, sweet, to the point, so you can implement it right away into your life. Without further ado, let's get to the episode. One of the hardest lessons I've learned in building my real estate business is this. I can't do everything on my own. And trust me, I have tried. I was that guy wearing all the hats: acquisition, property management, marketing. I even tried my hand at bookkeeping, which, by the way, is not a great idea. It was not until I embraced the art of delegation that things really started to take off for me. I actually remember hiring my very first virtual assistant. And then I realized right away, why did I wait so long to do this? And honestly, I was amazed at how great they were. They're better than me at most things they did. And in fact, that first VA is still with me today, 10 years later. Now, suddenly I had time to focus on bigger picture things, scaling the business, finding more deals, and honestly spending more time with the family. And that is why I'm excited to tell you about our sponsor today, HireTrainVA.com. So these guys have cracked the code on finding top tier virtual assistants for the real estate investing world. They go through a brutal selection process. Only 1% to 2% of applicants make it through, so you're getting the best of the best. And they've got this really cool draft board where you can actually handpick from the top talent that they've already sourced and vetted. It's like having your own personal dream team at your fingertips. And if you're unsure where to start or how to delegate right, they've got you covered with a free guide on 100+ tasks that you can start delegating today. Just head over to HireTrainVA.com. I believe in them so much that their owner, Valentina Brega, it's a friend of mine. I actually brought her on the podcast a while back. It's on episode 42, so if you want to check that out, go listen to a masterclass on how to hire and work with virtual assistants. So hey, if you want the fast track on hiring your first VA, but you don't know where to start, just shoot me a DM over on Instagram with the word delegate. Just delegate, and I'll hook you up with some of the same resources that transformed my business. Stop wearing all the hats and scale faster. Hire a VA, free up your time, and scale your business. Go to HireTrainVA.com or hit me up on Instagram with the word delegate. It's time to take that next step in your business. Now, back to the show. Steph, welcome to the show. So good to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I saw a little bit about your niche, your strategy, and I was super excited when I saw you were coming on because this is something that fascinates me. So let's jump right into it with what we call the Fast Four. Just 4 quick questions. Number 1, what is your niche or niche? Do you say niche or niche?
Either one. Honestly, I think I say niche, but sometimes niche. It all depends, right? Like, do you say realtor or realtor?
Yeah, that's true. We're taking a poll every episode to find out who more people say it like Cam or more like me.
Right
so
now,
far,
everybody's winning.
Niche is definitely winning.
I was hoping we'd find one, but maybe today.
All right. So the niche,
yes,
the niche that I'm in is ADUs, which stands for Accessory Dwelling Units, and a short definition of that is basically its own standalone unit that has its own living structure, bedroom, bathroom, and that's pretty much it. It's back houses, and we'll talk about multifamily as well, but that's in a nutshell what ADUs are, and that's my niche or niche.
Love niche. There we go. Love it. Where do you invest that stuff?
SoCal, specifically LA County, Orange County. I'm now also considering San Diego, and I'll talk about why. It's the ADU bonus rule program that is offered in San Diego. So we're tapping into that. And then also looking at Florida now.
Very cool. And this is a broad question deliberately, but what kind of returns do you see on this? Like, how do you quantify profit or success with an ADU? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, so it's a little bit tricky, right, to kind of dictate like what those returns are, because it's very different with ADUs. It's a different strategy. I would say in SoCal, I mean, you're looking at somewhere between 10 to 14, right, returns. But again, it varies depending on location, the type of ADU, what's the exit. Are you doing long-term? Are you doing midterm? I focus a lot on midterm. That's the main thing that I use for exit. So yeah, I would say that's roughly what you're looking at in Southern California.
Love it. And then why do you think that this particular niche is better than other niches out there?
I think in Southern California, it's the best one because we do have besides the housing shortage that we all are aware of and the affordable issue, it's very dense, right? In areas like LA, San Francisco, San Diego. So the only way for new investors to tap into these types of markets is by thinking about how they're going to maximize highest and best use for that specific property. So if you're buying a property, you're no longer looking at a cash flow play with long-term tenants, on a single family lot. Now you have to look at how can I buy this, let's say, corner lot and add an ADU to it, maybe two, maybe three, depending on, the zoning. And now you're adding more doors, which will then increase your cash flow and then help you offset other expenses. But that's the only way that people are able to tap into Southern California, which is why I think it's the greatest play. I call it the ADU play. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I love about the ADU play, you call it, I love that. I mean, a couple of things. We'll talk about this maybe later. One of the questions I always ask is, what does the future look like? But unlike Airbnb, where Airbnb, more and more cities are saying no Airbnb. So the tide is going out. It's against us. With ADUs, the tide is going in. I mean, it's getting better.
Right.
Like every city, they're dropping like flies, the cities that are allowing more ADUs to be built, because it's clearly a win for everybody. It's a win for the tenant who can get cheaper housing. It's a win for the economy. It's a win for the contractors, a win for the homeowners who can now afford to pay their mortgage because they're renting out part of their property by house hacking. It's really a win for everybody. And that's one thing I absolutely love about it. And you can, again, I'm not a super expert like you are at this stuff, but you can actually make cash flow because you can build them and then still rent them pretty high, right?
Exactly. And, to your point, cities are making this process a lot more ADU friendly, right? Especially cities like Long Beach, where I'm from, they're building over 600 ADUs. So California is leading that ADU wave, and other states are catching on. Washington, as you know, Thatch is definitely implementing that model at scale. In California, we have the 25% density rule, and we just got legislation updates. SB 1211 will now allow you to build what used to be 2 detached ADUs up to 8 now. So if you have an 8 existing unit, you can build 8 ADUs onto the detached to that current 8 unit. So it's huge, on the multifamily side of things. So even on that side of things, you could really scale it. But ADU is becoming a lot more ADU friendly in cities. And for exit, a lot of people were doing short-term rentals, even though technically you're not supposed to with ADUs. But again, that's the only way to cash flow. So what people are really focusing on, and one of the things I'm focused on, is midterm rentals. So anything above that 30-day mark, but slightly under a year, because again, long-term rentals don't really make you any money in California, right? So you have to look at how can I 2x, possibly 3x my income, and midterms are still in a safe space where these cities aren't banning midterm rental. They're banning short-term, but not midterm. So
that's brilliant. I love that. I have an ADU at my house, actually 2 of them here in Hawaii. I mean, Hawaii's been playing the ADU game before it was cool. It's been
right.
It's been 100 years of ADUs out here. And a lot of them are legal and a lot of them are illegal. Every house has is carved up. But one of my ADUs, we're going to do a midterm rental with it for that exact reason. I could probably get, as a long-term, get 2,000. As a midterm, I could probably get 3,000 to 3,500. And plus, I'm kind of thinking
smaller units are performing a lot better. I just did a video about this, because you can build up to 1,200 square foot ADUs, which could be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. But the ones that actually perform a lot better are those 400 to 600 square foot units, because these travel nurses don't need a huge space, right? And a lot of these college students, or even millennials, including myself, we don't need a huge space. So we're willing to live closer to the city, rent out an ADU, and pay a premium for it. 100%.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just did we do this mastermind out here in Maui. We call it the Maui Masterclass. We do it a couple times a year.
I've seen it.
We just got done with one, and there was a member there I was talking with about ADUs. And what they're doing the same thing. Ideally, I think they're doing it in Dallas. So they're buying these houses and adding another house in the back, a little house, maybe 2. And then another member there said the same thing that you were just talking about. They were talking more about buying duplexes, but they said that they do midterm rentals with duplexes, but they said the smaller the unit, the more profit they tend to make, and the less competition, because most investors out there they're not looking for duplexes with 400 square feet, 1 bedroom each side. So those ones are significantly cheaper because nobody wants them. But for midterm, they just work. So So yeah, just to
From
validate
the
that, I think it's
from a
smart.
building standpoint, you also save a lot of money in cost, right? Any ADUs under 750 square feet, you avoid impact fees in California.
Oh,
Anything
interesting.
under 500 square feet, you avoid school fees. So yeah, I mean, if you could stay
I had
under
no
that
idea about that.
600 square foot mark, you do save yourself a couple $1,000. And so yeah, that's the
How much
hack.
does it cost you to build?
Yeah, so anything under 500 square feet, you're looking at about 120 to 150,000. 600 to 800 square feet, you're looking at about 180 to 220,000. And then the bigger units can go from 250 to 350,000.
Mhm.
I don't really like to give the price per square foot, because there's a lot of variables, but
Yeah.
I would say in SoCal, it's looking about 250 to 350 price per square foot.
Okay.
Are you playing yet with the whole, like, the boxables that's coming? And there's some other
Yes.
companies that, competitors
Yes.
to them, but these like drop on your lot, they're already done.
Mhm.
Are you playing with those yet? Are those still coming? Are
We
those here?
we just started ADU West Coast, which is one of the design build firms that I work with out of Seal Beach. He just signed on with Boxable, so now we can offer that to our clients.
Oh,
But what I'll
nice.
say about Boxable and like the SIP, which are insulated panels, I think people still opt for traditional stick build because of the value add, right? Like I don't know how appraisers are really calculating and
Yeah, good point.
evaluating the boxables. So it's great for short-term cash flow, but if you're really banking on the appreciation, you're going to want to go traditional stick build. But it's good to still pitch it to my clients, right? And say, hey, we also have these more affordable options. And if it's for your grandma, right? Because a lot of them
Yep.
are either for cash flow or for family members, aging family members. So a boxable could be a good strategy, for someone who wants to help out a family member and doesn't care so much about the appreciation.
Yeah, one thing that's fun about the ADU thing is when you're looking at properties, even like MLS properties, like the gentleman down in Dallas doing this, he's like, we generally only buy on the MLS. He's like, we don't even have to go off market, right?
Mhm.
Like, but the beauty of this is that like you can take a deal that would be mediocre, like or even like bad, like it's not really a cash flowing deal, it's basically a break even,
Right.
appreciation play, and then you toss on the ADU aspect, and now you took like into like, oh, like especially, and then you add the midterm piece onto that, and now you're like, oh, geez, like this could actually work. You could buy deals straight off the market and make it work.
Yeah, I mean, if you check the MLS in Orange County, I think there's a lot. If you focus on like a lot of the new construction, a lot of these developers are doing the new construction with the ADUs already. I mean, they're part of the
Yeah.
plans from the
Yep.
start. Because again, that's the only way to make it work and make it pencil out. And I call it the ADU MTR play. That's like the
Yeah.
way
Yep.
for you to actually make the numbers work here in Southern California.
Yeah, and obviously, if you could do short term rental, if you're in an area that's okay with that, that's probably even better. Like,
Right.
there's a permit out here, and I know Denver has this law as well, but out here in Hawaii or Maui anyway, they outlawed short term rentals almost everywhere except for condos. But if you live in the property, you can get one permit for an Airbnb as long as it's on your property and you live there. And so now I have not done this yet, but I could at any point I could turn my ADU into a short-term rental. You had to like go through these hoops of like putting up a big 4-foot sign in front of your yard, tell all your neighbors, have a public hearing. But if you go through the hoops, all of a sudden you could get a short-term rental. I could get a short-term rental would rent for $300, $400 a night here in Hawaii.
That Ohana would rent for
that Ohana would rent. So
$700,
it probably would.
That's
your new one also.
Yeah, my Ohana.
You should get the license, the permit actually.
I've heard it takes 2 years.
Yeah, I heard it takes a little while.
Yeah,
but anyway, it just shows that there's opportunities.
What if you were to live in the ADU and STR the main home?
The main house, you'd print money. Yeah, you would just absolutely print money.
That's what a lot of the boomers are doing here, right?
Yeah.
They're using, and maybe we'll touch on how are people financing these ADUs. Yep. But I think what you just mentioned is a great play for those first time investors, right? Because you have, even if you're a first time buyer, right? I'm a realtor as well. So when I'm talking to first time home buyers, I'm like, you have to have the investor hat on. When you buy this property, how are you going to maximize highest and best use and create some cash flow to help you offset your expenses? And many times it's building out the ADU, living in that, right? And then renting out the main home, because in California, you can rent that out for a good amount.
I love it.
So tell me this, if I'm looking for a house to build an ADU on, how are you finding your deals or telling your clients to find their deals? What am I looking for in a house?
Yeah, so most of the deals that I look at, as Brandon was mentioning on the MLS, believe it or not, there are a lot of deals on the MLS. So never discredit those deals.
Yeah.
Off market is a good strategy if you're working with wholesalers, which I have in my network. So I'd say off market MLS. But what does that ideal ADU property look like? It would be your corner lots, alley access, because a lot of these homes have the garage sitting in the back near the alley. And if there's alley access, it helps you trench a lot less than you would if you were to trench to the main, sewer line in front of the street. I know it's like a lot of small little details like that, but that could be a $30,000 budget, that can really take you out. And especially for people who are using a HELOC loan to finance these things. I tell them, pay attention to things like that. Making sure that it's maybe not on a septic, right? Which we don't really deal with a lot of that in SoCal, but maybe up in the valley, if it's on a septic, you may want to avoid that. So your ideal ADU scenario would be a detached garage with a corner lot. Avoid power lines, avoid it being an HOA, things like that, right? But for the most part, I think any property in California has ADU potential because by right, you can build an ADU and a junior ADU if it's feasible.
So good. So good. All right. How about funding? Like, obviously, funding must work a little different if you already own the property. If you're trying to buy one and then add the ADU, how are you working financing?
Yeah, so it's very difficult in the residential space. There isn't like an ADU loan product yet, right? It is in the works. I see Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac doing their thing and trying to make it better so that they're going to work on that.
Yeah, I have a loan company as well, and I'm going to bring that to them today and actually just talk about that because you're right. Yes. There's a gap in the market right now for that.
Let me know, because whoever can solve that problem, that's a huge problem in the ADU space, right? Agreed. How do you fund these projects? If I'm a first-time investor who just bought my house a year ago, I probably don't have enough equity to fund that deal, right? Or fund the ADU. So what a lot of people are doing is HELOC loans or HELOC renovation loans. The difference between the two is a HELOC loan is a home equity line of credit based on the equity that you currently have on the property, right? So most people do have 150 to 250,000 to fund the ADU. If it's a HELOC renovation loan, they're banking on the future value of what that ADU will be worth after the build out, right? And that becomes a bit tricky as well because you have to work with appraisers who really understand the ADU play and will give it the value that it deserves, right? And now with AB 1033, we may be able to condoize these ADUs, and I think that's when the financing will really take off, right? When you're able to do that. But back to the financing, it's loans. Combination of credit cards with 0%, tapping into your 401k, cash, savings. I mean, people have to get creative on how they're going to fund them, right? So that's what I've seen.
Cool question. It's going to sound like a detour, but it's related to this. Let's say you build $150,000 ADU, whatever you can get for that size. What are you renting that for right now, approximately?
Yeah, so for $150,000, you can build 500 square foot ADUs. That's a studio or a 1-bedroom. That in Orange County, you're looking at $1,800 on the low end, $2,400 on the high end, and those are long-term rental.
Is that long? What about midterm?
Midterm, we're always going to say 2x that. Hopefully, right? Yeah. And I have seen that. I mean, I have one that's 386 square feet in Lakewood, and it's generating like $2,600 a month MTR.
Wow.
2,800, and it's 386 square feet. So they don't have to be big units, right? Yeah.
So here's what's fascinating to me.
400.
There's a financing strategy here that I'm playing with. And actually, I started thinking about this back when the fires happened in Maui and we lost 1,000 homes. And we're trying to think of how do we house people in Maui that we don't have any. So I put together this kind of plan. Now, that really didn't work out. They got enough housing. A lot of people moved off the island. The idea, though, is still pretty solid. And here's my idea. And somebody can steal this and run with it if you want to. I think this is fascinating. Imagine you go to a home, and maybe somebody's doing this. Please let me know, Steph, if you know people doing this, because I'm fascinated by it. I go to a homeowner and I say, hey, I am an investor. I will fund 100% of the purchase of an ADU on your property, but I'm going to split cash flow with you at some maybe whatever, some kind of level. Because I'm thinking, would I spend right now $150,000 to get $2,000 a month in income? Yeah, all day long I would do that. Like that sounds great with no real added expense. Now, so there's a number in there somewhere where a company come through,
pay for the cost for free, get all the cash flow for, let's call it 10 years or something like that.
Mhm.
And then the owner takes it over from there and it just increases the value of their property with no money out of pocket or something like that, right? Do you know anybody doing that yet?
I don't know of anybody doing that yet, because if they did, I would definitely, be talking to them. I
Yeah.
run across this issue every day talking to clients, right, is how to fund the project. I think that's a good play. I've seen people do, like I have one where they're doing a reverse mortgage. This ADU is going to be for the aging parents, and my high school friend, she's going to live in the main house and they're building out the ADU. So he's taking out a reverse mortgage on that to build that out. Kind of like he's, basically upfronting the capital for them. But I see what
Yeah.
you're saying. I think that's definitely something that's a need right now, is
Yeah.
figuring out that financing, because HELOCs, the reason why people are using HELOCs is because nobody wants to do a cash out refi right now with the rates. I mean, the rates are getting a little bit better, but if you bought within the last 5 years, it just doesn't make sense for you to do a cash out refi, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's out of the question. The second or third option, if you don't have a HELOC option, would be construction loans at a higher rate. Now you can't even cash flow unless you're doing MTR or STR. And then the private money lenders is another option, but now you're talking fees and points. And so
Yeah.
yeah. And then in multifamily, I don't see that issue. So I talk to a lot of multifamily developers and I have clients in the multifamily space. They don't struggle with financing, right? It's very black and white in the financing world for 5 units plus. But that 1 to 4 unit, those people are struggling because not everybody has 150 to 300,000 to finance these projects. Yeah.
Awesome. So we got to start somewhat wrapping up. But before we do, I do want to ask a question. Can you take me through just the numbers of a recent deal that you did? Like what it costs, what it rents for, what you're cash flowing?
Yeah. So there's one in Highland Park, borderline Pasadena, that I can tell you about. It was in a historic district. So that was fun dealing with the historic. That's another one. Stay, avoid these historic. They're getting a lot better, because California is really pushing for everyone to be able to build, whether it's in an HOA or historic. But this was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath and home. And we did an ADU, which was a 2-2. My investors wanted to do a 3-2, but going back to my appraiser, who really understands the ADU play, he said, you don't want to do a 3-2 unless you want to be the new one on the block to set that new comp. What I'm seeing that works here is a 2-2, right? We're catering to college students, travel nurses. That's what works. So we followed his lead. The property was worth, before the build out, 1.4, after the build out, 1.875, and it costs about 320,000 to build. So if you guys want to kind of do the math there was equity right off the back because of the location. So location really matters when you're doing the ADU play, because an ADU is going to be worth a lot different in Compton than Laguna Beach, right? And then the cash flow for those numbers is the 3-2 in the front is performing at 3,500, and then the ADU as a midterm, because the front unit is a long term, the back unit is a midterm. It's, I think, between 2,800 to 3,200, so almost making about the same as the main home.
Oh yeah,
smaller unit, different strategy. Yeah,
very cool. I love it. All right, moving on. What does the future of this niche look like? What do you think? Is it going to last?
I think it's just going to keep growing. As I mentioned earlier, 2 legislations to keep an eye on is AB 1033, which allows you to condoize these units. So you'll be able to sell them off at some point. SB 1211 and multifamily now allows you to build up to 8 detached units, if not more. So, I see it really helping solve the 2 issues that we have, which is housing shortage and affordability. And yeah.
Cool. What is your biggest challenge right now in this particular niche?
In the residential space, I would say it's financing. And believe it or not, we still struggle working with the cities because people from the city have a different mindset than developers and architects and investors, right? So it's a lot of like going back and forth. And as legislation keeps getting updated, the people from the city don't really even understand the process. So you really have to vet out the people that you choose to work with so that they know how to reference the code and understand how to get these permits through. So I'd say, working with the city is one struggle, and financing is number 2.
And then what would you say, if you could define it in a sentence or 2, what is the secret to your success in this niche?
Um, Man, I started off in 2017 when things really started taking off with the ADUs, and just started doing a lot of meetups in SoCal for
Mhm.
free and tapping into every single builder, in LA County, Orange County, and spending a lot of time learning the process. So I think doing a lot of free stuff at first, and giving a lot of value to
Yep.
people, being
Awesome.
consistent with that.
And then if I'm wanting to get into this, or somebody that's listening to this is wanting to start to learn about this, get into this, we talked about this a little bit before, but the men's question, what is their most important next step?
Yeah, I just posted a video about this today. First step is read the HCD handbook. So that really dictates what you can and can't build in California. It's like the Bible of ADU ordinances. So if you
Oh,
read
cool.
that, you'll have a good overview. And for people who think that the terminology is too high level, just copy and paste it into ChatGPT and have it spit out a more digestible version that can
Yeah,
help you
Right, yeah.
love
understand.
that.
That's what I
Perfect.
do. So HCD handbook, and then become a member of Casita Coalition. They are a nonprofit that really has had a lot to do with the bills being passed here in California.
Cool. Hey, Steph, this has been amazing. Where can people find you if they want to connect from you, connect with you, learn from you, all that?
You can just find me on Instagram, Steph Sells ADU. You can reach out to me there and connect.
Perfect.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, Steph. This was amazing. Really, really appreciate it. Love this niche. Love what you're doing there, and keep it up.
Yep. Super
Thank you
informative.
so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you. You guys have a good one.
And that, my people, is the show. Thank you for tuning in. And hey, before you go, if you enjoyed the episode or if you enjoy the show in general, please consider leaving us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We really do value your feedback, and we read the comments. We make future decisions about topics and guests and everything else. Plus, it helps us reach more people the more reviews we get. And last but not least, please head over to social media. Consider friending and following and subscribing to all that stuff at Better Life, and my personal page at Beardy Brandon, Instagram, YouTube, and everywhere else. Thank you again for listening. I'm honored that you would bring me along on your journey toward building wealth through real estate investing without losing your soul.